Welcome back to the video series that goes along with my 6-week Math Prep Workbook. I'm Mandy Balster, and this is week 4 for the workbook that I developed for students to use as they're getting ready for the math section of the ACT. Hopefully, you've completed the first 3 weeks of the workbook, and we're halfway in our prep time of getting ready for the ACT. If you haven't watched weeks 1 through 3, go back and do that now. And if you need a workbook, see the description, or I'll tell you where to get one at the end of this workbook. Let's go ahead and start with a warm-up for the week. First, we have the Pythagorean Theorem. Applications of the Pythagorean Theorem show up quite often on the ACT, so let's make sure we understand it. When we have a right triangle, there is a relationship between the two legs, labeled A and B, and the hypotenuse, labeled C. It's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. You're probably familiar with this. Anytime you're given two sides of a right triangle, you can find the third side using this equation. There's another topic that goes with this, and it's the Pythagorean triples. These triples are commonly used side lengths that satisfy the Pythagorean theorem. You don't have to do the calculations if you memorize them. Then you'll know the third side when you're given the other two sides of a Pythagorean triple. These are the ones that usually show up on the ACT. 3, 4, 5, 5, 12, 13, and 7, 24, 25. And their multiples. Meaning, if you multiply each side length by the same amount, say the 3, 4, 5, you multiply each by 3, then you have a 9, 12, 15. That's also a Pythagorean triple, the multiple of a 3, 4, 5. It's okay if you don't remember and you have to do the calculations, but if you do remember them, you may save some time in working a question. And remember, timing is usually an issue for most people. Because we're starting our 4th week of prep, it's time to take another practice test. I recommend a full-length math section test, 60 minutes uninterrupted. You may have a practice test from an ACT prep workbook that you have, or you can find them at act.org. You can even come up with one from an internet search. Back in week 1, we talked about how to handle topics that you run across during prep time that you're not familiar with or that you just don't understand all the way. Let's talk about that just a little bit more. You have a couple of options of how you can handle these topics. First, you could just skip the topic altogether and hope you don't see it on the test. But what if you do want to figure it out, which I'm hoping that you do? Here's a couple of other things you can try. You can do an online search of the topic. There's so much information available at your fingertips. Just search for the topic and you'll be able to find some help. You can even check out my YouTube channel for Teach Math with Me, where I have lots of videos on individual math topics. Ask your teachers at school. Most will love to help you. It's great to have different teachers explain math topics to see different techniques and methods that are used. And then there's always the old-fashioned way of looking through a book. I have several old math textbooks that I consult often. If you don't have any around, check out a secondhand bookstore or thrift stores that you can get these really cheap, but the math is still math. Friends can be a great resource as well. Make sure, though, that you choose a friend that understands the topic fully. Hopefully, they'll be willing to help you out with any questions you have on a particular ACT topic. It will benefit both of you because a great way to learn is to teach. At the end of each daily lesson in the workbook, after the blitz questions or the challenge questions on day 4, there's a space for you to make notes related to how your prep went that day. This is the ideal place to include notes on topics you need to review further. Remember, this is your learning time. We'll wrap up this week's intro with an ACT tip. I bet you'd never expect this recommendation from a math person. Read. This can be so helpful in all the ACT areas and learning in general. I suggest reading at least 20 minutes a day during this prep period. Whatever interests you, books, magazine articles, sports material. There are quite a few word problems on the math section, So you have to be able to comprehend what you're reading, understand the question, and read it all at a fairly quick pace. Practicing reading will help with this. Reading is a life skill that the more you do, the more you increase your brain power. So let's make a conscious effort to read more this week and to take that math practice test. So now it's time to get started on week 4. You have 5 days of activities to work. Leave us any questions in the comments below, and we'll talk again before you begin week 5. To get your own copy of the 6-week Math Prep Workbook, visit my website, teachmathwithme.com. Click on the link for the 6-week Math Prep Workbook. You can grab a free sample to try it out. Scroll down and click on the button, Download Free Sample. Give me your email address and I'll send it on over to you. If you're ready to go ahead and get a paperback version, you can get the workbook from Amazon in a traditional workbook form with a glossy cover. It will be mailed to you by Amazon. You can also get a Kindle version from Amazon, but you won't be able to print this one out. To download and print your own copy of the workbook, back on my website, go to the Resources tab, and that will take you to my Teachers Pay Teacher store. With this version, you can print a copy out on a personal printer or send it to a print shop. I like to specify spiral bound from my local printer. Get this version here. You can find all these links, a free sample, and more info at my website, teachmathwithme.com. Look for all the links you need in the description as well.